So today I am so excited. Axel Mahlke is with me today, and you are going to love his German accent. First of all, I just have to say that. Axel is a personal trainer, he's a fitness instructor, a coach, a community volunteer, a family man, and the owner with his wife, Anytime Fitness, and they have 2 locations in Niantic and also in Salem, Connecticut. But I am so excited, and he's also the father, a proud father of 2 young men. One's in high school and one's in college. So Axel, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, this is great. We've been trying to get this happening for a while.
Months.
So now I want to start with your background a little bit, because you have a medical background from Germany. You had gone to medical school and learned quite a bit about anatomy and physiology and all that goes behind the fitness coaching, the work that you do.
Exactly. So in Germany, I graduated from high school and went first to military, and I was a combat medic. So that's where my interest on exercise and medicine for the first time fused a little bit, because as a combat medic, you kind of do medicine and you're in the field when the soldiers are active. But afterwards, I attended medical school for 6 years, and then I worked for 3 years in orthopedic surgery. I replaced hips and knees, and it was during that time where I learned that I had it all wrong. You change people's lives before they need the surgery. And I always loved looking at nutrition, exercise, lifestyle, stress management. And that was sort of the catalyst at that point to make me contemplate a career switch. And eventually I burned out on medicine and followed through, became an exercise specialist, personal trainer, lots of titles, lots of degrees, and I love what I'm doing.
Good. Well, good. Well, it shows too, because I've seen you in action, working, helping, coaching people. So, and I loved your positivity, like a lot of praise and accolades to whoever was struggling and sweating and helping them stay on task.
That's
and acting.
Right.
Yeah, and all of that is so important.
Agreed. In my opinion, what made me go to fitness was that a lot of times we think about the what and not about the why. And what I mean with that is, when you look at the fitness industry, you turn TV on, you see advertising. They teach you always about a new gadget, right? Like the Peloton bike or new things you can buy for your home gym, weights. Now there's apps and programs you can download. And that's all the what's, right? So it's like with the diet and nutrition. What to eat. People look for, tell me what to eat. But you need to first understand why you eat. And when you exercise, the same thing. Why didn't you exercise? Right? And so my passion comes from helping people to understand that why. And we are all capable of that, because think about it. We do oil changes in our cars. They're not fun, but we do them because we understand if we don't do them, there's going to be a repercussion. There's a cost. There's a lack of longevity in our car. And the same with retirement. We pay into our retirement fund, not because we want to not spend money on other things, but we know we need it down the road. And fitness is the same way. People understand it's not about vanity, it is about health. It's about your well-being. It's about being a provider without, having to worry about medical concerns. It's about living your life on your own terms, independent with dignity. And that's what I love, and that's why since 1992 as a trainer, I have never burned out on this subject.
Oh, that's great. 1992, so that puts you a couple of years of experience. Now, you have a Silver Sneakers program going on at your facility, and it's a lot of people that are past, 65, 67, Correct. Don't know exactly when you qualify for that program.
Yep, 65.
And they are regular workout people. You see them frequently using the machines, getting feedback, availing themselves to all of those opportunities.
It's interesting because that is in my personal opinion, the most important group which should do exercise. It's not the 20 years and the 30 years and the 40-year-olds, because at that point your body is still young. It can take a lot of stress. It can handle the physical demands of the day when you're younger. But when you're older, the need for exercise increases because our bodies degenerate at an accelerated rate. We lose our balance, we get gray hair, we lose muscle mass, we start getting our first diseases with genetic programming or, like sometimes the environment, responsible for it. But we are starting, obviously at that age, to lose often our independence, right? We become dependent. You see people on walkers, on canes. You see people being driven to places. Often we are not able to handle our stairs anymore. Traveling minimizes. Playing with grandchildren becomes an issue because people have a hard time getting up and down from the floor. And of course, falling. That's my passion, falling prevention. People fall all the time. So, and here's the thing. When I start training people, in the beginning, they can do little. But once you start him understand, like I said earlier, the why, and there's a reason, I'm like, wow, I want to play with my grandchildren. And then all of a sudden, they don't necessarily have to love to exercise, but they have to do it. Again, just like paying for retirement and paying for your oil change. You don't love it, but you do it. And so fitness is great when it's fun, but you have to do it. But the good news is only small amounts regularly will get you to be able to play with your grandchildren and to live on your own terms and not sit in doctor's office all the time and talk about your experiences rather than your diseases.
Well, I like how you're proactive and actually thinking about the why and a little bit about the how too, how to do it, because you're really specific and and detailed and noticing all of the fine points of what to do and how to do it.
And that is, in my opinion, the second most important part when you come to exercise. Once you have figured out the why, now you need to do it properly. And that's where often a lot of people have misconceptions that you need to work with high intensity and it needs to be, you know, an hour long and 10,000 steps. And in reality, our bodies adapt into the environment you create on a chronic level. So meaning if you have consistent exercise habits as little as 20 minutes, 2-3 times a week, your body will make positive changes with that. And you can accomplish a lot. It doesn't have to be those preconceived or, you know, advertised principles of an hour and 10,000 steps and high intensity interval training and all the stuff you see on TV, which is often very misleading and discouraging quite often to a lot of people who feel like, I can never do that. And reality is they can. You need to just empower them, and structure is the key. We measure when someone comes in, everything. That's the German in me, that's the medicine in me. You know, we measure their abilities and balance and strength and flexibility and cardio, and then we have a starting line, and then we put a suitable program together. And then we're going to measure over time how much they improve. And when you see numbers improving, then it's much easier to comply to a regular exercise habit.
Well, good. Well, and I think it needs to be fun, too. So
oh, yeah.
We just have to have a good time while we're doing it. So we talked a little bit about the good training, the regular exercise, and the good nutrition. Is that something that you help to develop as part of your facility?
Absolutely. So ever since I went to college, I always thought like learning cannot be over after college. So I every year do some new certification or education. And actually, as we speak right now, I'm finishing my dietary certification as a nutritionist. And so we definitely, as trainers, are allowed to guide people on healthy eating. We're not doing what certified nutritionists or board certified nutritionists do, which is more clinical situation with pathological people like diabetes and things like that. But we help people who struggle with healthy eating habits to understand where the traps are, where you kind of feel this is counterproductive to your goals, to your health, and then how to change it. And you know, like nowadays, you probably heard of apps like Noom and things like that. Everything is now not about the what anymore, about the why. Noom is doing exactly that. It finds out why are you eating and why are you eating and drinking so often and those things. And when you change those, then again, you can address a lot. So exercise and nutrition go hand in hand. And it's funny, I'll give you an example of a consultation. So if I ask someone, tell me what your problem with nutrition is. So I give them 2 minutes to write down, and they often write down, I eat too much, I like late night snacking, I drink a glass of wine with every meal. So then after I see the list, I'm saying, okay, here's my nutritional consultation. Eat less, don't drink the wine, and don't do late night snacking. People know what they're doing wrong, right? So everybody who's listening to that, you know why you are, what you do wrong. But the question is, why are you continuing to do it, even though you know it's counterproductive? And that is really where people need to change. And my staff, and I'm so happy, I have like 8 trainers who are like 10 years with us, and we don't turn them over. They stay with us, and they're loyal. They understand that. That's what we teach. We help people teaching understanding the value of these whys. And then once they understand the whys, the whats and the hows are the easy ones.
Oh, that's great. Well, it feels like a family, to be honest with you, when you go in there. People are just so friendly, and they feel like they know you or you know them. But they give you space if you want it, if you don't want to have the contact. But if you do make contact, they're like, hey, how are you? And I think that's encouraging. Like, oh, you're back again. Good for you.
And like another thing is what my staff is really good at, and that's one of my trainers told me that years ago, and the analogy I love, so everybody knows how to use tools, right? So you know how to use a hammer, most people know how to use a saw and sandpaper, but it doesn't mean you can build a cabinet or a carpenter, right? Even though you do know the tools.
Right.
Now, when people go to gyms, everybody knows how to start a treadmill and maybe even go on a machine and put the settings and the weight and do some exercise. But it doesn't mean they know how to build health. So it is often about the little details, and that guidance is the key. And that's what my staff and I really try to accomplish. We make people understand how to build the cabinet of health, right? How to use the tools in your shed the proper way, that you can actually now know, educated, like this is the right exercise for me because my posture, I need more pulling exercises, or because I kind of have a hard time walking, I need leg strengthening, things like, and what exercises are most suitable for me, and then most importantly, that's again my medical background, what exercise you shouldn't do because they would be actually aggravating things or hurting you.
Right. Well, my husband has a torn rotator cuff, so we're really careful with that whenever we're in the gym, so those kinds of things are accounted for, I guess, and factored into whatever we do together. So let's talk a little bit about COVID. COVID has just been such a big, brutal, right? And I was pretty active in the gym, but then I cut back just because of COVID and didn't really want to expose myself, taking care of my granddaughter. And didn't want her to have that opportunity or that adversity happen. So tell me, how have you changed? How have you morphed because of COVID?
Well, for all the service industries, and not just fitness centers, but restaurants and many other industries have been hit hard by that because obviously we didn't want to go inside. And it was, a danger. So we obviously were closed down for a couple of months due to state mandate. During that time, we obviously met with the staff. We went through all the steps. What do we need to do to move forward from here? So, the adaptations were numerous. We kind of increased, obviously, air circulation, fresh air intake, had a much higher amount. So we really invested in that air turnover, fresh oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. We had higher sanitation standards. We obviously had mask mandates for a while. At this point, vaccinated people, it's their own choice. We have social distancing things in place. At that time when we were acute last year, there was even stickers and you had to move machines. But in the end of the day, we also adapted by training people now a little bit more on a variety of spectrums. We train people at their homes. We train people outside. We train people virtually. And we have obviously also a lot of still our members coming, like yourself, back to our gym and enjoying it. And the pride Linnea and I have about our gym, that it was always a small gym, and we always looked at function and safety as a priority. Cleanliness, function, safety are the staples which we started with 10 years ago. And that is what COVID has just reinforced, I would say. And we had really no spreader event or any problems. We moved all the classes, the group events outside, and we have still only small group training to really minimize that risk at this point still, because COVID is not over yet.
Right. We're not out of the woods, right. But and then also you have, is it a defib machine that you have in a 911 direct call, and the police would be there, or rescue unit would be there ASAP if anybody was to be there, because you go in with a fob, so it is anytime fitness. So 24/7. You got it. You don't shut down on holidays or
no, this is a camera supervised facility, and obviously we have all the franchise Anytime Fitness has really an awesome system which is very safe. So we have a defibrillator in there, we have cameras, we have panic alarms people can put around their neck. The police has access there, there's a Knox box outside, so the doors are supervised and alarmed. And we never had a problem. It's a wonderful community, East Lyme, and you know, like we have, as you mentioned earlier, it's like family, and we're pretty strict. As my German in me and my wife, on top of that, is also very strict. We're very strict about the security and the safety. We really look carefully of who we have as members. We make sure that there's no one illegally sneaking in, and so on and so forth. And it works very, very well. And we're open 24 hours, and people do work out with 2, 3, 4 a.m. because there's people who have graveyard shifts.
Exactly. If you get done with work at midnight or 1, hey, a perfect spot to kind of wind down at the end of your work day.
And then there's bathrooms, you can take a shower, and a lot of people go literally early before work and then, you know, have a shower and go to work right straight from there.
Nice, that's great. So what is your favorite class? Do you have something that's your absolute favorite? What is?
Yep, so there's a countryman of mine in the early 20th century. His name was Joseph Pilates.
Oh.
And it's really interesting. Pilates training has really morphed into all kinds of different trainings. It used to be really like his way was the only way, but it has evolved. And I was trained in Germany actually as a Pilates instructor. And I teach a class for over 18 years. Yes, before we even started our fitness club, I taught it at the previous clubs where I worked, and I still have members from that time.
Nice.
And I have to say, seeing that class and having my members there who are with me for 15 to 18 years, some of them, is like literally I'm teaching my own family.
Oh,
and
yes.
And personally, I like it because it is learning. So like myself, Joseph Pilates was an anatomist and a physiologist. So he was very picky about proper angles, proper execution, proper awareness, right? So mind to body, like really use your brain to control your joints.
And the breathing is so important.
Exactly. And so I'm scientifically, you know, like oriented like he was. So for me, it was easy to fall in love with. And I guess as he was a German countryman himself, you know, I guess I have the same accent like he. So, it's the real Pilates experience. But I teach it 3 times a week, and that's probably my personal favorite class.
Oh, that's great. Well, it was funny when my son, I think, was in high school at the time, maybe college, but I think high school, and I was taking some Pilates classes and had a DVD or something that I put in and was doing it, and he was laughing like, "Mom, that's just so simple." I said, "Well, you try it," and then he was like, "Mom, that's really hard."
It's really funny. Most of my male clients are not able to survive a Pilates class the proper way. They're literally struggling and find excuses not to come. It's much harder than it looks because it asks for control. It's functional training, meaning you need to use your joint stabilizing muscles just as much as the joint moving muscles, which is a little bit different than when you work with free weights or machines. So it has a lot of benefits for orthopedic injury prevention, which is obviously my background. Particular hips, knees, and spines and shoulders, like your husband, and the Pilates is one of the many programs which is conducive to help you with that. But it's not everybody's cup of tea, you know. And it's always worth to try out. You know, it's always a journey to know what you love and what you don't.
And what you want to do, yeah.
Exactly.
But you're also an athlete, a sports, like your soccer.
Yes, my sons have had developed 2 passions when they were young. One is Boy Scouting, and the other one was soccer. And so I involved myself in both. I'm still actually to this day, even my sons are both done with Scouting. I'm still the executive director for PAC 7 here in so the charter organization. I'm the executive manager for the PAC 7 on this.
PAC 7, I didn't know that. Wow.
Cub
so
Scouts.
Are you an Eagle or what's the?
I am not actually. In Germany, I would have loved to be a Boy Scout, but my parents didn't really sign up for it because they were both the generation born at the end of the Second World War, and anything with uniforms and flags was not very popular. So I was not really encouraged to do any of that.
I can understand that.
But my boys loved it. My wife has family, you know, ties to that. So I was just for years a den leader. Then I was a PAC master, and now I'm the charter executive officer and sponsor the PAC. So I love that. And then the other passion my sons developed was soccer. In the same way, like with Scouts, in Germany everybody plays soccer. Europe is a soccer hotspot. So I started coaching both kids at a young age, and during the pandemic for many years, and during the pandemic where we had for a while no income, like most small businesses, one of the local soccer clubs asked me to take a paid professional position as a coach, and that's what I do now.
Okay.
So I love coaching because my boys are big enough that they don't need to be coached by me anymore.
No.
But I've learned so much, I want to give it back to some more kids, and so also it helped me to make it through the pandemic, and now I love it and stay with it.
Oh, good for you.
So I kind of keep going on it.
Well, how nice for them to have that father figure, that male figure in their life, and you encouraging them to live a healthy lifestyle through exercise. And what a great outlet, too. When my kids were growing up, my parenting strategy was always wear them out. You know?
That's it. And you know, like for kids too, the sports is almost like an outlet after COVID, because they too struggle during the last 2 years with all these regulation and often quarantining and masks. And it's, you know, as much as this is a controversial subject, but it's lovely that they have something which is passion, which is fun, which is camaraderie, which is sport, which is outdoor. And, you know, like I find that's therapeutic almost for my team, which is 9-year-olds I'm coaching, and I love it. Yeah, it's a great age.
Nice, yeah, they're so little still. Yeah, well, healthy mind, healthy body, right? And just
Absolutely.
that connection of the two things together is really so important.
Yep.
So how do you define beauty?
Oh, I saw that question of you when you sent me what you talked about, and I'm like, so for me, beauty is always an intrinsic thing as much as an external thing. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I define beauty not by shape, size, or anything like that. I find beauty and attractiveness comes really from a combination of personality, your inner values, your charm, your ability to communicate, your core values, and of course, you know, everybody has a little different taste. I mean, there's probably appearance is a part of that, but I think it's every individual defines that on their own a little bit. But when it comes to my job, in regards, I have people, I need to teach them first to learn to respect themselves. There's a lot of...
To love your own body and to find yourself as a beautiful person, and then you emulate that, right?
There's so many people who are beautiful people, and they are so critical with themselves.
Exactly.
And have no self-value on
Right.
that. And the first thing is that you need to respect and accept yourself as you are. And really radiate that out, and then you can do anything really. Then you can, you know, make a career, you can create relationships which are long lasting, and friendships, and you obviously become also a more functional member of community. And I think therefore putting something into like into a drawer and saying that's beauty and that's not, that is always a dangerous thing. So I find beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Well, I love that answer, and I love that whole idea and image. And there is something that you have up on the wall in the fitness center that talks about, you know, getting from one point to the next point is probably the most beautiful thing that you can do in helping to preserve yourself and to stay healthy and strong.
I always define this as either process-driven or outcome-driven. You know,
nice.
So if you're only looking at the outcome, you often set yourself up a little bit for failure. You need to learn, you know, so if you do a diet for 3 months and hope that the outcome is 20 pounds of weight loss, and then let's say you didn't achieve it, or even if you did, you might give yourself permission to go back to the old pattern, and you don't have the process, and you will not keep the weight. That's the yo-yo dieting. And it's the same with exercise. We find that 30% of members joining every year stop the membership, you know, because they're not using it or they didn't get the results and things like that. And the hope when they joined was that it creates some magic which they weren't able to get before, like all of a sudden lose 20 pounds, lose 5 inches, or get that self-value. And if you can't instill that in people, it's tough to succeed. You need to learn to love the process. You know, it's like hiking. It's not about the destination, it's about the hike.
Well, the journey, right.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah, and just getting to know the people that you're hiking with.
That's exactly it. And if fitness is the same way. You need to learn to love to exercise, you know, make it regular, make it realistic, and find the right environment.
Absolutely.
And we love our people we have, and they love the environment we create.
Oh, you have great people at your facility. Well, I wanted to ask you about your community involvement. I'm always seeing things like Toys for Tots or the Jingle Bell race, and why is that so important?
Well, the community is sort of like really what made us select East Lyme was the community. We loved it when we came here. You know, we kind of came from Seattle where we lived first.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we lived there for 4 years after immigrating from Germany here. And so then we wanted children, and we looked at communities and school districts, and East Lyme was speaking to us right away. And we loved it. So needless to say, when you love a community, you want to involve yourself. It's the way to create relationships. And when you go to places and you know people, it's so much more fun. And so we always made that part of our mission to accomplish, inside and outside the business. So Linnea is with the Rotary, I'm with the Masons. We always belong to organizations We obviously volunteer on all kinds of organizations like the soccer, with the East Lyme Soccer Association for years, and Linnea was in the ELBO, or East Lyme Business Organization.
Oh, and that folded, unfortunately.
Yes.
That was a really good organization.
That was a good one. And then, you know, the Toastmaster she was in, and all kinds of wonderful things. And then, of course, with the business, I feel that we have the privilege of making it. We're surviving as a business and thriving. And that is also the responsibility to give back. So we always have projects going on. So the Toys for Tots is going on right now. We have, I think there's not a single charity we haven't supported in this town. And many, many years ago, I was doing triathlons actively, and a close friend of mine and me, we founded the Jingle Bell Run. And we looked at that time for a charity to support. And they're going to put a little non-profit support for Brian, for Anne Erdagel in.
Yep.
Her son committed suicide,
Right.
and she was at that time a trainer of mine, and it was a very devastating experience for all of us.
Of course.
And when we started founding this race and looked for a charity, we immediately jumped on that. And ever since, this is the Jingle Bell Run for Brian T. Daigle.
Nice.
In the honor of her son's name, foundation in which she tries to do wonderful things to help people who had experiences where family members committed suicide and suicide prevention, and so that is always dear to my heart because also a former staff member.
Of course.
And that's how it works with charity. You know, you give back, and so it's a giving and receiving, and that's how a community should work.
Absolutely. Well, I love your mission, and I love your passion. And
Thank you.
We just have a couple of minutes left. Is there anything that we haven't covered that maybe your plans for the future, what you see might be happening as we evolve? I really liked your comments about it's not about the machine, and because there's always going to be new machines being developed. But
yeah, tools, these are just tools like I mentioned earlier, you know, like a good carpenter gets more tools every year, but in the end of the day, his skill is determining what the tools will do, and it's the same with fitness. I want to put a little bit of compliment out to, we were able to survive as a business during COVID, to do a subject, because we benefited from the PPP program, which is the loan you got, and it was granted for most small business, meaning you didn't have to pay it back.
Right.
It was really we were able to keep our staff because of it, and we kept them off unemployment with that, so it was very good. And the other thing was, you know, like the support by the state and partially also locally was really that we were able to survive. And, you know, like I think that needs to be recognized because it's so easy nowadays to point the finger, you know, what's going wrong, but there also were a lot of things which were going right. Our landlords allowed us to tag on the rent during the time when we didn't have any business to the end of our lease, so we were able to survive with that as well.
Nice.
So want to shout out to be a little positivity. There is good stuff out there.
Absolutely.
We as a community can make it happen. COVID will eventually be managed. It's questionable if it will be ever over. It might be like a flu, always around, but I think we can get through this, and the community and the state have proven that we can do this. So with that, I want to end this.
Well, and I think that that's a sign of intelligence, your ability to understand and to adapt and to think about things from different vantage points and to always be solution-based and trying to figure out how can we get through this, because if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger, and you're certainly stronger as a result of it.
Resilience.
Resilience.
It's a good word.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Axel.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Anytime Fitness. Go see Axel.